What comes to your mind when I mention South Korea? Maybe it's the star power or the scenic views, but away from the glamour of K-pop and its massive film industry, life in Korea isn't as easy as it seems. The culture might feel very different for someone from another country, but what about the things that aren't immediately obvious? Discovering life in South Korea involves more than its beauty. From restricted freedom to air pollution and mental health concerns, there are many barriers to cross. So let's unveil the dark sides of living in South Korea. Living costs. So many people don't know that living expenses here can get quite pricey. Rent for apartments in big cities can go up to around 1,600 SGD. Nomads wanting to live in Seoul should expect apartments to be tiny by Western standards. And remember, deposits are much higher too. In major cities, folks often live in compact apartments, stacked on top of one another, and the costs sometimes make Manhattan prices seem reasonable if you can believe that. Now, the further away you move from a city, the bigger the apartment you get. Due to Korea's high population density, finding space away from others can be tough, and even the downtown of a suburb in Seoul can be as bustling as Times Square. But if you look at beyond the city centers, rental prices tend to be more reasonable. In newer apartments, utility expenses are usually combined into a single payment. So here's a pro tip. Make sure to carefully read and understand all the details before signing any contracts. Personal space. If you like your personal space, you're going to struggle a lot in South Korea. You need to get on a public bus once, and you'll understand that personal space is hard to come by. You might find yourself on city buses where moving is nearly impossible. Subways can also get really crowded, so be ready for that. It's a good idea to offer your seat to an older woman, or you might face the intensity of her disapproving glare. Many will decline the seat, but the gesture is what they respect. And remember, your sense of smell might go into overdrive, and it's not always pleasant. There'll be times when a smell hits you out of nowhere, and you'll end up with teary eyes, wondering, what is that? Obviously, you'll get used to it and realize that breathing through your nose in South Korea is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you might get. Food. Walking on the streets here, you might smell some delicious chicken, bulgogi, or shabu-shabu, and your stomach will instantly start growling. But while Korean cuisine is tasty, it might not sit well with those who have sensitive stomachs. Restaurants in South Korea have different meat dishes, with barbecue pork being the most common. Plus, these dishes usually come with a spicy red sauce. And you probably already know how kimchi and rice are essential parts of most meals in South Korea. So unless you're living in a city and a totally urban area, you won't find anything other than Korean or Asian-inspired food. Foreign and exotic food is hard to come by, and more often than not, they're kind of disappointing. And here's where it gets worse, because if you're a veggie lover, there's even more bad news. Vegetables and fruits can be super pricey in grocery stores, so be prepared to have them only sometimes. Local groceries are affordable, but imported foods will cost much more, especially since they often come in larger quantities. So if you're a fan of vegetable salads and plant-based foods, you might want to look around for the best prices. Air pollution. As soon as you step into South Korea, one thing instantly bombards you: the polluted air. Air pollution is a major issue here, especially in Seoul. The main cause is the swift industrialization in the country, and there are some harmful particles in the air, such as carbon monoxide and sulfur. And you know, there's this thing called yellow dust that blows in from the deserts of Mongolia and northern China. That's not all. All year long, these tiny particles come over from factories in China. It's a real pain for people with allergies, asthma, or any kind of respiratory issues. Some days it's not too bad, but there are days that really get to you. Culture. Coming to the people, South Korea's culture is unique to say the least. No matter how long you've been there or how well you know the language, you'll always feel like an outsider. Certain bars and nightclubs also sometimes have signs to keep foreigners out. Developing a strong bond with a local is not easy unless they're South Koreans who have lived abroad. What's more is, if you don't like being stared at, you're not going to enjoy it here. Older Koreans are especially not shy about staring at foreigners. But don't worry, it's more curiosity than any ill will. One more thing foreigners struggle with is obviously the language barrier. South Koreans don't usually speak English, or even if they do, they're not confident in their skills. Out of fear of getting it wrong, they won't answer back in English, so be sure to know some basic Korean or have a travel guide, or you're really going to face some problems. And then there's the lack of options sometimes. Outside of the main cities, every subway station and neighborhood seems to have the same outlet stores, chains, and family restaurants. So there's not a lot of diversity sometimes. But I can't talk about South Korea's culture without mentioning the drinking. Don't be shocked if you catch a whiff of soju coming off the skin of an older man in front of you, even at 10 a.m. on a weekday. Due to demanding work and study hours and high social pressures, Koreans often engage in heavy drinking. The drinking culture is extreme and it starts early. It's common to spot people stumbling down the streets, and it'll become an everyday sight for you. Koreans have a strong fondness for soju. If you think the Irish and Russians are the best drinkers, you're mistaken. The average Korean can outdrink them easily. If you get invited somewhere, you best believe there's going to be drinking involved, and you're expected to join in. Human rights violations. While South Korea is seen as a vibrant democracy with robust media and civil society, there are still issues regarding human rights, often justified in the name of national security. Governments have used strict security laws to limit freedom of expression, particularly in discussions about the North. The National Security Law, or NSL, dating back to the aftermath of World War II, is one such law. The vague wording of the NSL allows it to be misused by authorities. Historically, governments have exploited it to target dissenters and opponents. But since President Moon Jae-in's more human rights-focused administration took office in 2017, things have changed for the better. In 2012, Park Jung-gung, then 24, was sentenced to 10 months in prison for retweeting posts from a North Korean account. While he intended to mock North Korean propaganda, authorities saw it as praising Pyongyang. Although Park Jung-gung was eventually cleared, many others still face NSL investigations annually. This case shows that the battle for free speech has shifted online, especially in South Korea, which is highly connected with a 90% internet penetration rate, faces challenges concerning online privacy. The South Korean spy agency, the National Intelligence Services, has a history of exceeding its authority by attempting to influence elections through online campaigns and monitoring dissenters. In 2015, OpenNet, an NGO advocating internet freedoms, launched an app allowing users to scan their phones for surveillance software. The app was downloaded 50,000 times in just 3 weeks. Plus, there's a partial internet blackout in the country, with hundreds of thousands of websites, often related to North Korea, blocked or deleted annually. But it's not all doom and gloom, and there are plenty of positive aspects to living in this Eastern Asian country too. The pros of living here. I won't be the first to say that South Korea offers a unique blend of beauty and tranquility that's hard to find elsewhere. With 70% of its land covered in rolling hills and mountains, the country is a paradise for hikers. You'll find stunning views easily, and the best part is that you don't need to venture far from the urban areas to uncover hidden temples and treasures. Bukhansan Mountain, nestled right in the heart of Seoul, is one of the most captivating national parks that you can explore. Despite the high population density in its cities, South Korea boasts an impressively low crime rate. It's common knowledge that you can leave your belongings anywhere and find them untouched hours later. Worries about armed robberies and minor crimes are quite minimal, so you can rest easy when you visit. Need a checkup from the doctor? Don't worry about it. Healthcare expenses can be a burden, but not in South Korea. Access to healthcare is both affordable and convenient. And you know what's cool? Living here, you can totally skip the whole general practitioner thing and head straight to a specialist if you want. For something as simple as a cold, they go straight to specialists because it's super quick and easy. They're even into getting IVs when they're not feeling great because it's that affordable. Your life here will be efficient and quick, as the country has a modern and well-maintained infrastructure, making getting around without a car relatively easy. After all, both private companies and the government add to infrastructure services and projects, and it shows. South Korea takes pride in having one of the world's finest public transportation systems. This includes trains, subways, buses, and taxis, all linked to a single card usable across the entire country. Prepare to be jealous, since the country enjoys some of the fastest internet speeds globally. This makes staying connected and working remotely incredibly smooth and hassle-free. Have you experienced any of these things while living in South Korea? Let us know in the comment section down below. And if you liked this video, do us a solid and smash that like button. Make sure to subscribe so you'll be the first to know about upcoming content. And buckle up, folks, because there's a lot we have in store for you.